ability of the engine to perform in anything other than straight and level, and it gave them time to develop a more permanent fixture to solve the problem. And as I say, referred to as either Miss Tilly's diaphragm or Miss Tilly's orifice, and really she was a saviour, and without that, the Spitfire, the Hurricane certainly wouldn't have gone on to achieve the success that both aircraft did during the Second World War. We mentioned the Merlin engines, Jonathan. Look at this to the right, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very rare sight indeed. The only flying example of this particular aircraft anywhere in the world. A remarkable achievement by the team over in New Zealand who put this aircraft together. And the team here who reassembled it after she was test flown in the Antipodes and then crated up and flown over here. Powered by two Rolls-Royce Merlin engines, but as you'll hear, they sound very different to the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine up front in the Spitfire. Probably because of the difference in the propellers, also the exhaust ports as well. So there's a good underside view of the Hawker Hurricane, and from that you can clearly see the difference in the wing plan there. Which is the easiest way to identify them apart in the air.
The Hurricane unfortunately met a rather ignominious end. She wound up as a ground attack aircraft fitted with all kinds of heavy weaponry, heavy cannon and guns to serve in the anti-tank role, both in North Africa and also in the European theater, and in the Pacific in a very limited quantity, I'm led to understand. But the Hawker Hurricane was withdrawn from frontline service by about 1943, at which time she was superseded almost entirely by the Supermarine Spitfire. The design and construction, the Supermarine Spitfire, was originally a hand-built aircraft. It took a great amount of labor and a great deal of time and money to put the planes together, and it wasn't until the transfer of production to Castle Bromwich in Great Britain at a car foundry that they were able to employ some mass production techniques.
That's right, because it was based on the Schneider Trophy seaplane, racing seaplane.
And so too with the motor, the Merlin that was put into these aircraft was derived from the same racing engine. I can hear the engine spinning up. I think we're getting closer to the, I won't quite call it the moment of ecstasy, but it's probably a moment many of you have been waiting for quite some time, especially since it was a bit of a disappointment at last year's show.
I think if the sound of that is your ecstasy, you need to get out more.
I think so, Mark. I do know our Spitfire was recovered as a wreck on a kibbutz on the Lebanese border of Israel, where she had sat for several years following her demobilization. But we'll get to that later. We've got something far more important to share with you momentarily, and that being the flight of the world's only flyable de Havilland Mosquito.
Affectionately known as the Mozzie by the crews who flew it, regarded as the wooden wonder by so many people. The reason being that much of the aircraft is made from... Now this is a very rare sight indeed. Not one, not two, not three, not four.
You have your phone? Yeah. Oh, you went out and forgot.
Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. Powering the Vickers Supermarine Spitfire, the Hawker Hurricane, and the world's only flying example of the de Havilland Mosquito.
Spitfire on the port wing, Hurricane on the starboard, Mosquito JA114.
Enjoy. Operated 2 or 3 Mosquito high-speed freighters, taking high-value cargoes through occupied airspace.
And when you say high-value cargo, you actually mean diplomat.
Indeed, yes.
Or diplomatic bags.
Yes, they were moving these from between neutral countries through occupied airspace. The Hurricane was the first monoplane fighter to be adopted by the Royal Air Force in the mid-1930s, and the first of 50 of these, the Mark I variants with a two-blade wooden propeller, were delivered about late 1935, I think it was.
Actually, I think they entered squadron service in 37 or thereabouts. But yes, they all had two-bladed wooden propellers and a fabric-covered wing as opposed to the metal wing. And they had some handling issues too. I also seem to recall the tail wheel originally was intended to be retractable, and they put it into a fixed position because it was unreliable.
At the Shuttleworth collection over in England, they have the world's only example of a Sea Hurricane Mark 1B, a nice fast fly past now for us from the Mozzie.
Now, would you believe that mosquitoes went to sea? There was actually a seaborne version of it intended to be operated from aircraft carriers, and it goes one step further. We talked a little bit earlier about the Avro Lancaster, the Canadian warplane. Could fly further and higher, but only saw service for a few years in the 1950s before being retired. Today, no surviving example of the Hornet remains.
Anyway, hey, it's flight
No, I think he's going to land this time. It's coming too slow.
I'm trying to get downstairs.
Oh, yeah. I'll wait for Dan. I'll get it after.
That's